Hey Guitar Heroes, this is Mel from howtoplayguitars.com and Unleash Your Inner Guitar Hero, available on School right now, skool.com/Unleash Your Inner Guitar Hero. I've got two blues guitar classics for you today, and I want to see if you can tell me what these two have in common. Let's go. Okay, so if you didn't figure it out already, the first tune was Baby Please Don't Go, originally recorded in 1935 by Big Joe Williams on his 9-string guitar. And the other one was Boom Boom by John Lee Hooker, recorded in the 1960s, I want to say. And so even though these tunes were recorded in different eras and potentially had some different backgrounds to them, they're very similar in what they have to offer on the guitar. And these are quintessential blues guitar riffs that most blues guitar players especially, really you want to learn them if you haven't learned them already, because they're going to be the basis for a lot of other very popular blues and rock tunes. Everything from Susie Q, which I've already done a video for, Hey Joe, which I've also done a video for by Jimi Hendrix, originally by Billy Roberts, and a lot of other songs like Green River by Creedence Clearwater Revival, and many, many, many more. And so the interesting thing is that they're both unconventional blues forms. The traditional blues form is in 12 bars. Now, the recording that John Lee Hooker, most of the time when John Lee Hooker does this song, both for the main recording, the recordings that he's put out, and for his live performances, typically the intro is that 8 bars that I just performed for you. And then he does 12 bars for most of what he does with the band, including the verses, with the vocals, and even with the solos. Sometimes he'll just stay on one chord. That's another thing that's really common with both these tunes. With Baby Please Don't Go was originally recorded by Delta musician Big Joe Williams. He recorded it, on an open G tuning with capo on the 2nd fret, I think, on a 9-string guitar, and he pretty much stayed on the one chord much of the time. And that was very typical. And in fact, that particular form of that tune is like 18 bars for the intro, and then 7 or 8 bars for most of the verses. And that's according to a Lightning John Hopkins recording that I was going by myself. That was the one that I spent the most time on, just deciphering exactly what he was doing. So what I'd like to do is just tear apart these riffs a little bit and talk about some of the techniques and some of the things that they're using, and then how to take these own ideas into the other songs we're learning and into the rest of our playing in general. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so both of these tunes were originally recorded finger style. But I often will play them with a pick, just because I find it easier to really dig in and really play them the best that I like to play them. But the main riff, the opening riff, is again very reminiscent of the opening of Hey Joe, for example. So that little riff, I'm going from an open B string, and then often hammering on to the 3rd fret on the B string, playing an open E after that, and then going to the 3rd fret on the high E string, and bending it a little bit, and then sliding into the 5th fret on the B string. And then it has this little blues riff underneath, which you've heard that in other contexts before. And an interesting thing about both of these songs is they both use that same riff underneath. And basically what that is that's an open E, G, that's the basis for songs like Green Onions. So very common blues riff, and what I'm also doing is I'm alternating the chords with the riff. So E, G, A to E, using open strings. And again, this is very reminiscent of Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan, for example. So I've got this main riff, and then I go. So that's the call and the response. So the response of that is almost the same thing, but he goes from the E, slides down to the D on the B string 3rd fret. So again, at the beginning, open B, hammer on, 3rd fret of the B to the D, open E, G, 3rd fret, bend it, open E, slide, and then I do the E, G, A, E, open E, G, A, E, slide into that just like we did the first time. So this is right out of the same pattern that we were using for Boom, Boom, Boom. Just 2 booms. And so he starts out with, that's the opening of Boom, Boom. Okay. So a very similar idea. So this is D, B, D, B, A, and then E, G, A, G, E, D, E. Okay, a very simple riff like that. Just again. Times. Another thing that Lightning Hopkins likes to do is he likes to accent beat 2 of each of those spots there with the E chord. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hits that beat 2 a little harder than the rest. And again, he's doing this with fingers. Want that type of playing, really what he's doing is using the thumb on the down strums and the index finger on the ups. But I have my own way of doing it, and that's why I choose to use the pick, because I'm trying to be a little bit closer to the original recording, but you know, I don't have the exact same technique that he has in terms of playing that with the thumb and the finger like that. That's not how I learned, but it's basically like that, just basically strumming down and up with the thumb and index finger. And then he goes to the A chord, 7, A7, with that 3rd finger. Actually, he does it with the 2nd finger, and he lays that 1st finger across the 2nd fret. And actually, the riff is also often alternating between the G, 3rd fret, and the F sharp, 2nd fret. So often incorporating a little bit of the open E string in there as well. And often we'll like do a little hammer on or pull off. And then he's sliding up to the 5th fret on the B string, which is the same as the open E, but also sliding often onto the 5th fret on the D string, the G note, which is the same as the open G underneath. So it's really kind of, you know, 2 G's and 2 E's. B7. Okay, and if you're not familiar with that B7, it's a 2nd fret on the A string, 2nd fret, 2nd finger, 1st finger, 1st fret on the D, 3rd finger on the G string, 2nd fret, picking on the 2nd fret on the high E string. Okay, and then he goes back to the A, bends that G ever so slight. and then hammers on to the open E to the second fret, then goes to the second fret on the B, back to the open E, plays an E, and then there's a little turnaround. So this is third fret on the B, and third fret on the B, fourth fret on the G, okay, and then like a little A chord, second fret on the G and B, and then a little bit of it, almost like an A minor, first fret on the B, second on the G, to the E, or E7, and then the B7. Okay, so similar rhythm, B7, A. And he often walks up on the D string, which is interesting. Most people will walk up on the A, kind of walking up to the third, minor to major third of the B7 chord, and then like I said, that's the way that it ends. That's the final turnaround, and then you're back to the beginning of the tune. Whereas the way that Boom Boom is done, he's going to start out with the slide from the second to the fourth, and then heading the third fret on the B string immediately after that. Okay, so E, D, E, same idea. So then it goes to second fret on the D, second fret on the D, and then to the second fret on the G, but a little bit of open G in there too. Sliding from the A to the B flat, it's a little bit of a blues note. E, D, E, and then goes to the D, third fret on the B, A chord. Now when it gets to the A, if you're doing the version where he switches from the E to the A and then back to the E, which is the most common version that I saw, you'll play an A, C, D, back to A, which again is very reminiscent of, you know, almost like ZZ Top. A lot of blues riffs are, blues riffs are based on the like the A C D kind of thing, which is just like the, you know, the E G A thing, E G to A, C D A. A lot of times I'll do an A power chord, C D power chord, back to the A. Okay. Now if we just do the 8-bar form, that's what we've got, which is most of the time that's how he does the intro. And then when he gets into the verses, he's doing like this little bend type blues riff that has influenced songs like Voodoo Child and other you know, songs by Stevie Ray Vaughan, like Scuttle Button and things like that, where you're bending on the second fret of the G string, right? But he's putting some other notes in there. So either the open E and the third fret on the B string, which is like a D for that E7 shape. Sometimes they play either this E shape, E7, or this one, and just muting the A string there a little bit. And so kind of a down, up, down. Sometimes it's easier if you can bend with that third finger and reinforce it with the second. Okay, so this is the main verse riff that you'll hear most of the time. There are some variations on this. He does it a little different every time. I encourage you to go listen to different recordings and watch different videos of him playing it, and you'll see what I mean. But this main one that's notated in the video for you here. And then the other one is... we'll take off the pinky or the third finger off the B string 3rd fret. And you basically have the notes here. E, G sharp, B is open. And then D is the 7th of the chord. The root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. E, G sharp, B, D. And he's trying to... when he's bending that A note, he's bending it either to the A sharp B flat, which is the blues note, or the B. Okay? And so that's something to practice, but... Alright, enjoy. Again. And he's going to do that through the verse, and then... the B, if they get to the B7, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, you know, he'll play B, D, E, B. And always going back to that main riff for the E. Now, by the way, you could do this either as an E vamp. Either of these two tunes could just be a straight E vamp for as long as you wanted it to be. Or you can do the typical 12-bar blues around these tunes, keeping in mind that, like I said, the Baby Don't You Go, or Baby Please Don't Go, originally had like an 8-bar form for the verses and up to 18 bars for the intro. So something to play around with if you want to try to put it back to the 12-bar blues. But basically the chords in both of these keys would be like an E7 with or without the pinky, an A7, either the pinky here or these two fingers here. And so you hear that even in that riff of where he's kind of going from an A7 to an A6. And I have a video about that if you want to check that out, about different types of chords. I go through some different kinds of chords so you can up-level your chord playing. Check that out. That's also on my YouTube channel here. And so anyway, and then, you know, playing around with some of those chords is really helpful. And like I already showed you then, the B7. Okay. Now, the other thing that John Lee Hooker likes to do is he likes to go all the way up to the 9th fret on the top, like 3 or 4 strings. And this is an E6 if I just play these 4, 9th fret on the D, G, B, and E strings. Then you can make it a 7th by playing the 10th fret on the high E string, or the 12th fret just makes it a regular E. And you can even incorporate your open E string, which he does that too, and he'll do like a... When the band is really smoking, he'll sometimes just hang out on that chord up here. Right? And it's a way for him to just get out of this open position so he can get up a little further on the neck. And it's really effective that way. And he can play some funky type stuff. And again, this is, like I said, this is all what John Lee Hooker's doing for the most part. But, you know, most of the time he's in this neck of the woods. With the exception of the other thing that sometimes he'll like to do is take his whole hand, cover the strings, and play them rhythmically, even to the point where he's almost like a tremolo, like you would do almost like a ukulele, right? And so that was kind of a fun thing that he would do for that. Now, going back real quick to Lightning Hopkins and the way that he would often play Baby Please Don't Go, there's 2 other things that I noticed. One lick that is bluesy, almost Dorian-ish, where he actually will go to on the A chord, back to the E chord, which is just 3rd and 2nd frets on the top 2 strings, top 3 strings really. G, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, B. That's sort of the Dorian feel. And if you do it on the G string, then it's a blues thing. All right, and then towards the very end of the record, Okay, and then just goes to an A. He kind of sometimes will borrow with the second finger, E7, and go, and then just plays an E7, E6, and an E7 with the pinky third fret on the B, and ends it like that. Okay, so anyway, that's just a quick recap or a quick discussion about these two particular tunes. There's great tunes, great blues tunes. Baby Please Don't Go and Boom Boom. The first one originally by Big Joe Williams. I was actually also primarily focused on the Lightning Hopkins version. And then the other one is Boom Boom by John Lee Hooker. And let me just say real quick that after you have learned some of these licks and then you want to try to play along with recordings, the Lightning Hopkins recording actually is up a whole step in F sharp. So that means you're going to have to use a capo at the second fret. And some of the recordings of the John Lee Hooker tune Boom Boom are a half step up or with capo on the first fret. So just something to keep in mind when you're learning these tunes. Enjoy. Hopefully you enjoyed these. Hope you learned a little bit of how to incorporate these into your playing and have fun jamming along to these. And then till next time, I will see you then.